Oh, well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of matters. One is that we've...
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've been wired for sound. I will say one thing for Donovan. One of the facets of my work is I attend a lot of agricultural shows and things like that. I also douse there. And every time I've been in the West Country, I've had my ear bent by farmers saying, "Oh, you want to go and see Donovan about that?" So they do pay you a very good compliment. Right, this evening's talk. I was going to talk about health and what I call health dowsing. You're all competent dowsers. You can all work out your own ways of doing things. But if I explain some of the ways I use, it may give you some ideas, it may give you a different approach and a different view on things. I suppose I'd better give a brief background about me. Originally I'm a chemist. I became a teacher. Her Majesty inveiled me into working for her, and I did various things, culminating in doing some paramedic work because I could get out of the aircraft before they came round for the fairs, which I thought was a good idea. So over the years I've actually built up quite a lot of medical knowledge in various areas, and a lot in the complementary and alternative areas, particularly and principally in the essential oils and the aromatherapy, although I cover quite another range and qualified in quite a few other therapies. So, much more ado, let's have a go. This slide may be a little bit faint, but I'm just putting that up. That's a basic grid that I use. The principal thing is it goes from 0 to 100 on both sides, so I can get a percentage, because most of the time I work in percentages. I'll also do a straightforward yes and no. I tend to work off a straight line rather than waiting for it to circle, so once it's gone off the line I know whether I'm going towards a yes or a no. It's a slightly different way of doing things perhaps for some people. As you're facing it on your left, I use that side as my negative, below par, not very good, or whatever you wish to call it, and to the right I use that as above the normal, in excess, and so on. The biggest problem in the medical side of the work is if you take blood tests and you look at a whole system of blood tests, they all come out in different measurements, and this gives a lot of problems talking to a doctor or other professional. I solve this quite simply. I work in a percentage. 0 means the average it should be for the person. I vary my scale a little bit, but basically minus 100 means they're deceased, plus 100 they've got twice as much as they should have. So that gives me a fair range to work as a comparison. In there, although not very easy perhaps for you to see, I've also superimposed a list of vitamins, minerals, and one or two other bits and pieces. I just use them as they're helping me out to quickly track down something. But the main point is the percentage side. So, what things can we do for health? Perhaps the most common one that you'll be asked to do is vitamins and minerals, because most people are becoming aware now about their health and about their conditions. I will say one thing that I've noticed, because I attend a lot of the shows and I do a lot of craft fairs and various other things, that the public are becoming more aware. They're quite happy to accept a dowser working. If they look professional and they're competent, they accept it. It's not something strange and unusual. At first they ask about the health side, and they basically say, "Oh, is it like water dowsing?" So I say, "Yes, except I'm not using water, I'm looking for other things." They're very happy with that. That seems to have entered the public conscious. They accept and understand dowsers. Vitamin mineral side. I will leave this for you again. You can make your own grids. I've got some copies of these, but if you wish you can use them. They're something you can take away. Listed the main vitamins, listed a lot of the main minerals that are involved in the body processes. That's not quite fully comprehensive, but it gives a start. If you want to go further into it, the various nutritional books, but I refer you to Thorson's ABC of Vitamins. That's a very good book. It gives you a very good start to it. Thorson's ABC of Vitamins and Minerals. You'll see some of them that there's a T by the side of their trace elements. They are small amounts present. If you go over into the area of Bath and West and round there, they have to supplement a lot of their cattle because they are short of some of those trace elements in the soil. If you go into Derbyshire, they were short of iodine. That's why goiter was quite commonly known. They had lots of thyroid problems. Not so much now with the iodised table salt, but it used to be a well-known problem. So you're looking at trace elements. Going back to the percentage, you're looking, is it how it should normally be for the person? So therefore you're getting a scale that's very accurate for that person. I'll introduce the usual warning. You all know when you're not dowsing correctly and when you're on form, and you apply all those usual checks, even down to the usual one of, do I need to go and have a cup of coffee now? And as somebody on the fair says, oh, of course he'll get it right, he's swinging his chandelier now. You notice at the bottom I put on other deficiencies and other therapies. It's a useful little adjunct. Do I need to do anything else? Have I got it all there? Have I missed something? Steinborn will probably tell you, when he's doing depth of water and you go through the system, you find the depth. You could perhaps use a percentage grid for that if you change it to feet, meters, yards, whatever you wish. A listing like that in percentages gives you then some idea of a person's health. 5 to 10% either side, no great problems normally. 25, 30%, you're starting to look at problems. Then you start to look for patterns. Are all the B vitamins down? In other words, they could be getting very stressed. You're beginning to look in those lines and picking out patterns. But you're using the dowsing there as your guide, your aid. The common sense kicks in. Do these things really happen? Is it so? One that I particularly find now, and there are plenty of copies of this if people wish, I call it residues and contaminants. The more I've looked around, the more unhealthy I find people through various things they've absorbed. I've just done the week at the Royal Welsh Show. I've seen several farmers that have been organophosphate poisoned. All their joints are swollen. They've got all sorts of lumps and bumps and other problems. When you come down to dowsing them, you find it comes up an extremely high amount. You're looking at 60%. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of what's known as LD50, lethal dose 50. You get 100 people, you feed them X amount of the chemical. If 50% of them die, that's your average. And some of them, the LD50 is in very tiny amounts. Cyanide is not very high at all. Fortunately, there's not a lot of it. But you're looking at some of these other ones, the hormone residues. There are problems occurring in London on male fertility because there are many chemicals that are mimicking estrogen that are in the drinking water. And the Thames Water Board has been having problems with it, and occasionally if you read some of the London newspapers you'll see comments and crises about it flare up. The one that I haven't listed there, and particularly noticed on the way up tonight, is carbon monoxide poisoning from being stuck in the motorway. And I think that very much should be in there. The aluminium, the lead, cadmium, mercury, copper. Copper, you notice, is in the toxins as well as in the vitamins and minerals. Because a little bit is good. Again, a little bit for the arthritis, rheumatism. But also, an excess of it causes problems. When you're looking at that, you're then looking back and tracking it down, rather like a detective. Why is there too much? Why can't the body deal with it? Is the person taking in too much all the time, or are they not able to get rid of what they've got? Then you need to track down a way of enabling the body to get rid of it. Various herbal chelates and things like that will do it. Nitrates, getting higher and higher. If you go to Lincolnshire, you'll see a lot. My personal experience of that, of being around the Grantham area, is there are a large number of people that seem to have mental problems and physical deformities. I think it's more than the average. But when you look at the water supply, and I leave this to the water dowsers in the areas there, I find there's quite a high concentration of nitrates. I was unfortunate enough to meet several people from the Camelford aluminium problem. I don't know whether Donovan may have come across this. Very unfortunate case, but the aluminium levels are incredibly high. They're almost up to the point of lethal. And I think they are still having lots of problems with the aluminium, as nobody's yet managed to get rid of the residues in the bodies. It's an area to consider, and the problems about that. I don't necessarily say I've got answers to everything, but part of the thing is identifying a problem. And this, your fertile imagination of thinking ways round and becoming a detective. It is a detective job, this. The clues are there, and you need your dowsing to help you sort them out. And then you get your brain onto it as well, and common sense. Petrochemicals. Much, much more these days. Very high amounts. You talk to engineers, farmers that have been pouring the agricultural chemicals on their hands that split and crack. A lot of the engineers, slurry oil, things like that. Hands are splitting and cracking. When you look at it, they've absorbed a lot of oil and it's upset their liver. Again, you may find that you want to study a bit more into the body mechanisms side to understand why it's doing that. But you've got to start. You can douse it. It's there. Next question is, what are you going to do about it? Don't know? Pass it on to perhaps somebody it does. Start looking it up. I hope I'm giving you some ideas of different things to try and to looking into. A lot of gardeners have the problems with the pesticides. And if you're doing any health work, they may come to you with odd problems that seem totally unusual. One of the most unusual I had was actually a doctor who had come to me and said, my colleagues cannot cure me. I've come out in all this rash all over me. There's nothing they can do about it. I'd actually seen this before, because I said to him, you've been trimming the garden? Oh yeah, he said, and the allotment next door. I said, you've had some of the weeds up and been sprayed with all the juice from the sap. And some of it's quite toxic. Oh, he said, calm it and soothe it, clear it out of the system, no problem. But you'll come across gardeners with odd rashes. That's a line of approach to take. What have they done? Well-known case of all the survival experts, filming for the BBC, I think it was. They went along the canal bank, picking all their things, including hemlock. None of them could recognise hemlock from cow parsley. Which I don't think I'd trust my life with them. Antibiotics. A lot of people have them. They upset the B vitamin balance quite considerably on prolonged usage. Anaesthetic. The debris from anaesthetic can lie with people for years. Not just major operations, but dental work. That can be there. That can impair functions. Something you may want to try is to look at the acupuncture system, all the meridians, and the activity of points on the meridians. And douse what they should be. Are they working below par, above par? Not working at all. Quick thumbing through the acupuncture book and see what it concerns. Again, you've got another idea into dealing with the problem. I'm going to whistle through these a little bit more quickly now. You're getting the idea. All the different things that you can begin to use, your basic tool is still your dowsing. You're adding to it all the time. You're building up a big repertoire. This one is perhaps more my line, the essential oils. The full list, I suppose, about just under 200 from all over the world, different parts. A lot of the things by experience and knowledge I can say I use this straight away, but there are always the awkward ones that come in that you're not sure of. So you douse out for the person what oils are needed. And then you go back and say, what do they do? Why are they there? I'll throw you in a few bits. Amber, benzoin, oak moss will clear petrochemicals from a body. You don't need much, 1 or 2 drops applied gently over a period of a month or so. So it's diluted and used at that concentration, but it starts clearing that from people. Now, two ways of doing that. I brought out on the front here some of the oil boxes I use with different oils in. You can actually go along and say, does the person need this oil? Yes or no? You can hold it, you can feel the vibration of it. So if you're not familiar with the oils, and you have some, you can actually say, do they need this one? I usually explain it as rather like fitting a jigsaw into the pattern. Do they need this into their health pattern? Whatever way you wish to imagine it or work with it. You can build that up. Throwing it over in a different way, probably most of you know these, the Bach flower remedies. And probably quite a lot of people have used these as well. Exactly the same way. Does a person need them? How many drops do they need? Again, you can work through it. Perhaps one that you haven't thought of is tissue salts. Standard 12, very important to the body process. Do they need them? Straightforward, no problems. Yes, 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 no. They may be short of quite a few. Throw you in a different idea. What are the key ones they need to use? Probably only 2 or 3 to put the system right. So don't just go what they're short of and say they must take them. Douse to see which are the key ones. Because you may find they only needed 2 or 3 and they set the rest of the system running. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is throw it open to questions because there'll be a lot that come through. You can use this in many different ways. The key to it is your mind. What you're going to look for. Start, back it up with some knowledge. Look up what you need. Your first thing is get your raw results. You can all douse and find out what people are short of, what they're not short of. When you feel your efficiency is dropping, change the thing, have a cup of coffee, come back to it again. No problem, we've done that before. So all these are perhaps a different view of something you can do for friends and relatives as well. So far people think, yes, the person must be with them. Throw you in another idea. What about a hair sample? Every part of the body's got a cell. It's got the DNA, which is the blueprint of the whole body. Hair samples are easy. Change your way of looking at it. Look at it like a telephone link to the person. Try that approach. Certainly my postman appreciates me using hair samples. He's not so keen on dripping red envelopes for blood samples. So, what can we do with the dowsing? You name it, you can do it. You've all been doing it. The health side, yes, it's useful to have a medical knowledge of some sort or therapy knowledge to back it up. But you can go a long way to sorting things out. The only thing I say, and I emphasise, if you're doing it as a medical thing for somebody's problem that they're paying you, do double check it. Perhaps even get somebody else to check it until you feel very competent at it. Because ultimately their health depends on what you do. But in the sense, if you're drilling for water, you're paid by results. Unless you can get them to pay first. Although the proof may be a bit late in coming. Find some ideas into that. There are lots of areas, I don't know whether you've heard of gem and crystal remedies and things like that. Again, you can douse and you can look at those. And I've heard of a lot of people that will enhance the workings of any crystals and remedies by using the energy from dowsing. Again, there are things you can try and work with. It blends with healing in many senses because you're using energies. So it's very creative. You can bend in lots of ways. You can use it as a proper tool to aid your working. What am I going to say further? I think it's time you lot should say things. The only bit I will follow up on media, if I turn sideways you probably recognise me from a long programme by James Randi ages ago, but Carlton Television are now doing another. They've approached me to do a bit of dowsing in the studio. I managed to forestall them. Their idea was that one of the things they want to do is people to go and find the missing Myra Hindley body. I personally avoid that one. But they'll probably start ringing up 1 or 2 people. I wouldn't like to tackle that one. That's not my area. But if I'd like to throw that one open to field as many questions as I can for you in areas. Do you want to?
Well, that was very interesting, wasn't it? Absolutely fascinating. All sorts of ideas given to us. And now, Michael is ready to take any questions. And is there anybody who wants to ask him a question? Yes, the lady in front here. First.
Just squeeze anything, or is it on? Okay. Have you found the answer for organic organophosphorus sprays? Because I've had a lot of programmes on the Welsh telly about suicidal sheep farmers.
Yes. The ones I've found, every time I douse out a set of information for people, I keep copies. And every so often we go through them and find out any common denominators. I'm looking mainly towards things like the amber, the benzoin, the oak moss, which are pretty hefty liver clearances. All the way through it seems to be affecting the liver, which is knocking on through the rest of the body. It's also knocking out a lot of the hormonal system. So occasionally there's oils like damiana, hop. The dreaded one for a lot of aromatherapies is hyssop, but it's a hormonal balance, which is not suitable for pregnant ladies, but has other uses as well. Again, a little bit depends on the person involved. But certainly the first three oils, the amber, benzoin and oak moss, come up with a great deal of consistency and in quite high dosages. And the person feels a bit rough for a few days and then gradually begins to get a lot better.
May I ask you about the remedies you give for the use of benzene or diesel, what counteracting that is?
Petrochemical side.
Yeah.
The best one I found for that is amber oil.
Amber.
Amber, which is the distilled oil from the amber jewellery. The amber
Right. Thank you.
Next one.
Michael, have you tried ginger wine for extraction of organophosphorus? Because I found that's very useful, unobtrusive, no dangers inside because you just put it on the skin and it just extracts the organophosphorus straight out from the system. Ginger wine.
Thank you, Joe. I hadn't come across that one for that.
So can you douse the correct remedy for someone or yourself without having the remedies in front of you, from a list and a book or paper or something?
Yes, I can now. I can go through them. But over the years I've handled all these so often that I'm not sure whether it's just I'm taking them off a list and it's like telephoning to the list, to the real thing, or whether it's actually because I've handled them so my brain's got the knowledge of what they really are. I'm unsure as to which way that works, but it certainly works. I can go through a list. Most of the time when I'm working, I've just got a list of essential oils with me. The box is somewhere else around me. But I just go through the list and sort them out and the amounts I need, and then I go and blend them for the person. So I don't actually have to hold them, but I know some people do that.
For somebody just starting, it's going to be quite difficult to know whether it's you or your health is you're registering when you pick up a particular oil or sample. How do you make sure, as a beginner, how would you recommend make sure that you lock into the other person? Okay. Well, I'll repeat the question then. For a beginner, it's going to be difficult to know whether it's your own health you're dowsing or whether it's the patient or other person. How would you recommend that a beginner would proceed to make sure that you locked into that patient?
Right. Several things which you brought up there which I was hoping somebody would. First of all, the best ones to start with are vitamins and minerals and the tissue salts, because you can't overdose in normal usage with any of those. Vitamin A you can get problems with if you're taking massive amounts, but the others, no real problems at all. So they're always the best ones to start with. In one sense, it depends how you work as to achieve the concentration. I can sit in the middle of a massive exhibition and work for the person. I put what I call my concentration on sorting out for this person what they need. But at the same time, I managed to cut off everybody else around me. Now, I call that detachment. I know there are schools of Buddhism and things that teach this, and they teach it with meditation and things like that. But it's achieving that bit of a single-mindedness, that your whole concentration is on that one person, and you're not going to be interrupted about it. Now, that will be difficult at first. It'll keep breaking down. But one of the things as you get more experience, you'll realise when that has broken down. And I'd always suggest that the end question is this right? Is there anything else I should do? Leave it a few minutes, drop that one in again somewhere else. Is this correct up to now? And if it's not, you go back. Or if you feel your attention's wandering, or suddenly watching the person that's walking around that side, you go back. Again, that's the bit of discipline and practice that brings it. In one sense, a lot of water dowsers are out on the field on their own with perhaps one or two people around them, and it's much quieter and more tranquil and easier to keep your concentration. If you're in a busy area or a big public area, it's harder to keep it. The only thing I'll say about that is that when I did the Randi program, I found it much easier to work because they very deliberately set up lots of disturbances, lots of people banging around off stage, out of sight, lots of sort of grimaces and pulls and tripping over bits and anything to break your concentration. And I know that upset one or two others that were on the program because they just weren't used to being in such a mob. So if you do any media work, be aware of these techniques to upset you. A lot of the time on genuine programs it's not done deliberately, it just happens. But somebody like that was a deliberate attack to break your concentration. The more you're in the busier areas, the less it affects you. That's all I can say is practice on that and build that up.
It's a very interesting, very useful answer indeed, and one that I think we should all take note of, because it affects really all our work. And that was a very, very useful answer. Now, any more questions?
Could I borrow this back just a second?
Yeah.
Could I ask you about the oils that you use, please? Do you dose people internally or rub it on the skin?